I would like to ask you about past technical disruptions. So there have been AI is a disruptive technology in itself, and I'm starting to think of it more than technology. So, I think more about the governance aspects of it and how it's a capability that can help augment decision making. But I'm starting to say we should look at it beyond the technology realm, but we got to get there. But if I look back at past tech disruptions, I'd like to know from you, do you see any lessons learned that we could potentially carry forward in this AI era?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot. And if you don't mind, I want to mention a few of the technological disruptions and transformations that I lived throughout my career, or even before then. So when I started back in the early 2000s and started my internships, one of the first experience I had was there was this person and this colleague of mine in the organization that I worked with. He was an expert in Excel, right? And back then in the data analytics, if you're familiar with, early in the 2000s, there was lots of companies that had like spreadsheets, spreadsheet software that would do a lot of different things. There was this person in my group. He was always sought out, and people like were always reaching to him, and he was an expert in Excel. He would do a lot of really complex things in Visual Basic for applications, and back then that was like pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I started to get involved with him and learning as much as I could. That was very early. That was during one of my internships, and I was like, yeah, when I am an expert in my field, that's who I want to be. I want to be able to do things like that, grab data, any data set, and extract insights to be able to inform decision making. So that was probably the first experience that I had with the world of data analytics and Visual Basic programming and programming in general on automating things, right? On automating how do you transform data to extract insights. So that was my first experience. Back then, as I mentioned, lots of spreadsheet software. Right now, there's really not that many. A lot of those companies are out of business or not used as often, as much as they were back then. And you basically get those main players that are able to continue forward and pushing the boundaries. So, Microsoft Excel is still big 20 years later. So, and there's, as I said, not a lot of companies that were out there during that time that's still active today. So that was the first exposure that I had. And back then there were not a lot of people who knew how to do data analysis. I think it's much common nowadays that people are able to open an Excel spreadsheet, even at a minimum, be able to manipulate the data a little bit. Obviously, not everybody knows how to do Visual Basic for applications or programming. It's not easy. Even back then, some pretty cool things that we did that I'm like, I'm not even sure how I did that because I would definitely not go back to my Visual Basic for application days, especially when you have codes like Python nowadays that are really easy to understand and to work with. But that was kind of like the first, I would say, transformation that I lived. And as I said, I think nowadays almost everyone knows how to open an Excel spreadsheet or different spreadsheet software that we have nowadays, a CSV file, and understand and manipulate it. Back then, it was not that common. So that was the first transformation that I lived. Social media, then a little bit afterwards, especially with the introduction of smartphones, I think that was a big one.
Mhm.
Where nowadays it's like everybody has a smartphone. I don't know anyone who doesn't have a smartphone, and that is literally a mini computer that you have on your pocket that has a GPS, that has a camera in it. I mean, if you remember before the smartphones, we had those TVs that you would put in the car and you would put in, and you have to update the maps when you got home, and it was different times.
Mhm.
And obviously we had our cell phones as well. We had the cameras. We would have a lot of people would have their own digital cameras. You don't see those anymore as often unless you want to have a professional camera that allows you to take settings. And so those were really big changes.